Greetings, programs. This is Let's Code a Full 90, where we take the next hour and a half and dig into some source code and try to make the world a little bit of a better place. I'm your host, Rob Menching, and today we're going to be tackling a little bit of Wix source code, just like that. All right, actually, we're going to be picking up where we left off last time. So why don't we go jump right in over there. Now, I have to admit, I did do a little bit of work here. I have a build going back here, getting everything up to date. And I want to show you as soon as this finishes, which will take another minute or so. I want to show you the little bit of extra I did. If you remember, we were working on merge modules and getting their inputs tracked correctly in the tracking file. And the same goes for binary Wix libs. We're making sure that we're getting those tracked as well. So the hope is that with all of that, we will be in a good spot. Yeah, so now we're into the Wix end-to-end test here. Let me boost this size up. Yeah, just like that. The Wix tests don't take too long to build. And the end-to-end tests don't run on your machines, so that's good. Actually, the Wix end-to-end tests run, the burn ones don't. And that happened pretty quick. All right, 13-minute for the overall build on my machine. Takes about 40 for the official build, but that includes running all those burn tests, which actually install bundles and stuff like that. All right, so let's see. With that in mind, I was going to bring up and show you what I was working on most recently. All right, we'll bring this code editor up here. Yes, and look at the changes. All right, so what were the changes I was making? So we were looking at the merge modules and their tracking files not tracking both the inputs of the merge modules and all their outputs, I think. Right, so here I've added to where we're actually processing the merge module and reading all its files. We add this tracked file here. So we're tracking the merge row, which points to the source, which is the merge module itself that's going to be merged. So there's that one. And I guess there's no other changes. Nope, just the fact that we return that. Oh, and then here we go. This is actually where we extract. So the first step is processing the merge module and tracking everything that it's going to do. And the second thing then is to extract the merge module's files. And that is here. And so what we do now is when we we read the merge module to get all of its files out to know where the files are going to be tracked or where they're going to be extracted to. So when we're doing all of that work, then we will create a track here of an intermediate. And I actually made these temporary originally, which means that at the end of the build, they'd get deleted. But they weren't being tracked correctly. So this is actually a better way to represent it. They're intermediates. So if they're already there, then the tracking file will read them, figure out that their timestamps are appropriately set, and then we'll be good to go. Now, I still have one more problem I was seeing. What was the problem I was seeing? Oh, yes. After doing all this work, I'm still seeing it, and we're going to go run here next, but I was still seeing it do the still build. Incremental builds were happening still. Or rather, incremental builds were not happening. Full rebuilds were happening of the Wix part. And I was like, what's going on? And when I looked, I found that one of the files that was being built, I think the merge modules, had a later timestamp than the MSI and the cab file. So I think that's probably one of the things that we're going to go dig into most today. And then hopefully, if everything goes well, we will maybe write some tests to start verifying that the files are being built, not modified on us and things like that. So I want to continue pick up where I left off, which will help you guys catch up to the kinds of things that I did most recently around all the merge modules and the tracking files. Let's see, which I think this is the one that we did earlier. The bind database command. Yeah, we added all of the merge module files that were added. We tracked them. Yep. Okay. So let's go jump in to here. And there we go. Let's go source Wix. Right. No, I finished building. So let's go to, let's see, source test Wix. There we go. All right. And let's go look at one of our test projects that we can go jump into. I'm going to make this thing a little bit wider so that these names fit better on the screen but are still big enough to read. All right, there we go. So into the Wix proj, let's see. So Wix proj, does it matter? We were working on, which one of these had the merge module? My memory's not good enough here. Let's see. Wix module. That's the creation of the module. So it must have been the Windows app. Let's take a quick look at this. Right. We'll open the code here. Let's see if this looks good. Oh, don't need. Oh, right. We split those horizontally. Yep. Tracking files are all going because I did a full build. Thank you for telling me. And let's see. Is this the one we're looking at? Yeah, there we go. He has the merge, right? And if we look at this project, this has the references to. This has the references to the native app and the module. There we go. Which includes the WinForms app. Okay, plus the UI Wix extension. All right, great. So if we build this, this is the example that should build some pretty interesting challenges for us here. Okay, so let's go ahead and I guess build. Actually, let's clean everything out here real quick. I always do an NDX of a git clean before to make sure that all the files it would delete are files that I'm okay with it deleting. And let's go ahead and pick up here. Always get a bin log. All right, let's make sure everything builds. What other changes I've done in the last week? Oh, in the last week also, I've done work on the signing targets. So that was a big set of things, changes that I've made that are also now in this build system. So while we've been making incremental build changes, incremental build changes, but I'm done. No, while we've been doing build changes here, trying to make incremental build work well, I've still been working on all the other days, and we're not here together to make the various other bugs that I have to solve, and the big one I've worked on is Wix targets, the signing targets, because signing was all broken in Wix 4. I'm going to move to common targets, which fixes so many other problems. I have opened an issue for this. This, if we remember from last week, is the we need to do a restore and then a build. So I'm just going to do a restore separate. Yep, do the restore, that's great. And then let's go ahead and do a build here. All right, so successful build. And let's go ahead and open the tracking file real quick. All right, now we have to make this big to get this thing wider because it will not show us otherwise. Oh, we have a multi-language thing here. That'll add more complexity. Not sure I'm prepared for all that. So in the ENUS, these are the files that were extracted or built, right? So these are, that's extracted from a library, that's extracted from the UI extensions library, and then there's the merge module with its files extracted. Okay. And here's our tracking file. Okay, we'll look at the ENUS. We may have to take the ENUS and JP, the US English and the Japanese out separately for a minute while we get this kind of under control. All right, let's make that smaller for a bit. Okay, so what do we see as inputs here? Man, this has so many inputs. Let's see. So these are the outputs, the cab, the MSI, and the PDB. That's expected. Basically, we have all this stuff shoved into a cab, and then the MSI references as external, and then we always build in PDB. Great. Inputs. One, we brought in this, the UI extension from Preview 0, which is interesting. I want to point out something here. This did not happen last time. I have been doing lots of work on the Wix toolset packages being hosted on GitHub just for development purposes, so for development builds. And this has chosen to pull down the UI extension from there, which is really kind of interesting. It pulled down Preview 0. Oh no, actually this pulled it from NuGet. This is on NuGet. It went and got Wix UI, Wix extension from Preview 0. So any improvements we've made to Wix UI since then are not going to be represented in this file. All right, this is very surprising. I didn't notice this before, so I'm now thinking through the ramifications of what exactly it means for this to flow through there. That's interesting. Anyway, it looks like we're okay. Wix UI, Wix extension from Preview 0 is still compatible with the development builds that we're up to now, which is like build 177. So the long, 177 changes since then. So it's quite a bit of change. I'm surprised it's still working without issue, but yay for us. All right, anyway, so that's the UIs coming down from the NuGet. If we need to, we'll go through and we'll force it to use our local cache if that turns into a problem, but looks like it's not right now. It really caught me off guard there. That's kind of cool. All right, so next thing we are referring to the Windows app, the XE, not surprising. Another input is the wixlib, because that's what we're referring. Yep, we're referring that in. And then here's the merge module where it got built to. Now these are all the other inputs. Now another input is where the merge module's file got extracted to, which is this thing. You can tell because it has the merge module GUID on it. That merge module GUID is fake. I wrote it by hand, but that's okay. That's how I could tell this is the merge module file, because it has the merge module GUID on it. It has been modularized. Anyway, so then also, let's see. Then this is the VCXproj DLL from our wixlib, which brought in that. So now we have all of our inputs. These are all the inputs from our build system into that. And this looks correct. This really does look like it represents all the things that that provide data that ends up either inside this MSI or inside this cab. So yay. Yeah, I think that's pretty awesome. All right, so knowing that is good, let's go and look at the intermediates. So now these are files that exist on disk that participate in the build system that would need to be cleaned and otherwise checked as, or just files that need to be cleaned, I guess. That's what these are. Right. So what do we have? One, we had where the cab was built originally. That's good. And then we have the intermediate. This is the merge modules file being extracted is in this folder. So that's the exact same folder as that. Let's go ahead and give these guys an extra couple tabs to line them up. Yeah, let's do it that way. No? Yes. All right, let's go here. And we will add, there we go. So now we can see these things are lining up perfectly, right? So that file, although if I modify this file, it's going to know that the timestamp changed. Anyway, we'll do another incremental build here. We'll do many incremental builds, I'm sure, before this day is over. All right, so here's the wixproj wix library, also as an intermediate because it was extracted from the wixlib. So it was one of the files that we would need to clean, but it's also an input to our cab. And then these are all of the UI. Interesting. So here the Wix UI are all referenced as inputs. Or as intermediate files that got extracted during the process. And this gets me thinking, do we really need to list the merge module file itself, the extracted file, and this bound file as inputs? Because technically speaking, not technically, completely speaking, these files can't be, well, these files timestamps can't change if this merge module timestamp doesn't change. If this merge module doesn't change, these don't change. So maybe it's overkill to include these two files as inputs. I say that because now that I look at the UI extensions and all of its files that participate, these do need to be cleaned and they do need to exist so they can get picked up, but they don't need to be listed as inputs because the UI extension listed itself. All right, I think that's something to think about. I have to think about it a little bit more. But it's not incorrect to have too many inputs. All right, so let's see. If I undo all these files, is it gonna still... All right, cleared the dirty bit. Let's see if that's enough to keep it going. Okay, so we have that one. Now we're gonna do another build. Let's just do this build, and I have a feeling we're gonna see that it probably built too much because that's what I was seeing before. All right, here's our wixproj. And go look at our CoreCompile target. CoreCompile. Oh, this is good. Skipping CoreCompile because all outputs are up to date with respect to input files. CoreCompile, all updates up to respect to input files. Well, that's what we would expect. This is goodness. I'm just admiring the fact that it looks like things are actually working for once. All right, so quick reminder, what are we working on? What are we working towards? What's the goal? The end goal is, trying to find my other window where I have all my bugs open because I have so many of them. Let's see, issues, here we go. Yeah, there they are. These are my bad issues. My big bad self here. So we're working on these two things. Project with merge modules defeat incremental build facility, and linking with binary Wix libs defeats incrementals. We'll have to go back and add a tag extension. Tag extension, as we mentioned before, is done differently now, but I will need to go test to make sure that still works. But here we go. So we just did a change with a merge module that had all of its input file, all of its files, and now it's working correctly. Building once, building a second time, and it works. So this is probably too small. Let's go zoom in. Yes. Look at these. These, by the way, are my two oldest Wix 4 bugs. So that makes this very exciting. Very exciting moment. Getting rid of some of my older bugs. Wow. I'm just pausing and admiring this. All right. So I'm going to do another quick thing just to make sure this isn't fool's gold or anything. And we're going to edit one of the files earlier. So let's go back and look at the static lib. And it has a file here, framework.h. So I'm just going to use Notepad, open it, save it, so that it ends up with one extra file. Sorry, not an extra file. Timestamp updated, which should cause everything after that cascade to change. So we now go in here and do a build. We expect to see lots of things rebuild, honestly, but I'm curious to see which input triggers this, which input should trigger it. So the static lib gets included in the DLL, the DLL gets included into the Wix lib, the Wix lib then gets included into the final MSI. So let's see if it's the Wix lib that triggers this project to build. That's the hypothesis. Going back to good old scientific method, you state your hypothesis up front, and then you measure. And with bin log, we have measured. And now we zoom in, and we drop down, and we look for our core project, CoreCompile. And it says it's completing because the input file Wixlib is newer than the output file cab. Yes, that is correct. That is absolutely 100% the right answer. Woohoo! And we're building this because the same is true. All right. So that's normal. That's what you would expect. This is awesome. All right, let's do one more test. Let's try to get the merge module to be the thing that triggers it. Oh, before we do that, let's go ahead and do another build, having not modified anything, and bring up the bin log and making sure that this still is happy. At any point, I am prepared to be disappointed and have the whole thing build more than it's supposed to. But it didn't. And it didn't. Yes, so these two CoreCompile targets, by the way, are happening because we are building both in English and Japanese at the same time. So we're actually testing a little bit more complicated scenario here than even I intended. But that's okay. This is so much goodness. I am so very happy right now. I didn't expect it to work. Maybe I didn't expect it to work. I think I didn't see it work. Or maybe I was just remembering wrong. All right, so what do we go edit now? I think what I'm going to edit next is the merge module itself. So Wixproj for the module for the WinForms. You're the only module, right? Yes. All right. Oh, no, you're right. Can I open a file here, please? No, you're not going to help me. All right. Sorry. I need to open an actual text file, like the module itself. All right. This looks like it. So let's take away a white space, add a white space. Notice here I said that I had a fake module ID on this module. I wasn't lying. There it is. That is not a real good. Don't do this at home. Anyway, so we'll edit that. So that change should cause the merge module to get rebuilt. So when we build, that input should be the challenge or the thing that needed updates. All right, here we go. Clears. Build. Give me a non-incremental build. msbuild.binlog. And survey says, this is where the little thing flips over and tells you the right answer. And it says it rebuilt because the merge module is newer than the output. Woohoo! I am happy. I am very happy. Input file is newer. That's great. Okay, now, I always get excited about the first one, rebuilding. Rebuilding is not actually the case that's the hardest. It's not the one we've been working on, honestly. We've had it rebuilding. We've had it over rebuilding. The real question is, does the incremental build work such that it does not rebuild here? So we will look at the build log now. Really wish it would open up on this monitor, but I guess my display, my stream monitor is not my primary. That looks good. Yes. 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 That's fantastic. That is fantastic. Look at that. Huh, that's interesting. Oh, target outputs. I missed the wrong thing. Add item. That's what I want to look at. Yes. And then the target's outputs are all of these things. Yeah. Kind of like it. Yeah, that's right. The target outputs are the tracking files and all the files that were built. Yeah, look at that. Look at that. And then the build output file is these two. Man, that's pretty. That is pretty. Bob wanted me to test incremental build if you change the MSM Wix proj. Oh, okay. All right, that sounds interesting. Let's go ahead and do that. It's an interesting idea, Sean. All right, so Notepad, the Wix proj modules, Wix proj. I expect it's Wix proj. Module, NetForms, Wix proj. Yeah, that. Okay. Oh, look, there's all kinds of things we can test in here. So let's go ahead and delete some of this stuff that I had in here before, trying to get it to reference my own local build. This is actually off of my main Wix build. But let's go ahead and delete all this noise out of here. I need to remove that from the project for real. Okay. This is a good change. Let's do this one. All right, cool. So now let's clear screen, MS build, build it. All right, so what are we expecting? We're expecting to see it to build this time. And the problem is that the build is so fast, it's hard to tell, which is a great thing. I love that. I mean, been doing work on Wix to make it faster. Went too far. CoreCompile. Oh, all files are up to date. Okay, so Sean has found a case that did not work. So we edited the Wix proj, but it did not rebuild, which is less a problem here and more a problem in the Wix proj. Oh, that's interesting. So if the merge module... Oh, but because we're not tracking... Wait, so the MSM didn't build, but in here, there should be a call out to resolve project references to get all of those things. So this here should be calling out to all my other projects and saying, hey, are you up to date? So there's the one for resolve project references here, and then call out to MS build. And this should have a CoreCompile into it. And this is going to say, all right, so the issue here is that we changed the project file and we did not get a rebuild of the merge module. So let's go ahead and try that the same with this one here. We should be able to modify this Wix proj, and maybe we'll get the same behavior. All right, so this is a nice clean Wix project. We'll just add a blank space, save it, do that. And now let's see if this triggers a rebuild. All right, so we are expecting it to rebuild this project fully, I guess. CoreCompile. No, it skipped it. All right, so here that says that the project file itself is not considered input. All right, well, let's see if that's true. Is the project file not considered an input. And to do that, I want to open up one of these windows. There we go, this one probably. There we go. This has the Wix targets in it. Okay, so let's see, where are we at? We want to see the CoreCompile, right? And we probably want to see, all right, so there's compile, there's content, there's that. So the project file itself is not listed as an input to CoreCompile, which means that, which explains why we don't see it being included. So I'm wondering why it wasn't here before. It could have been an oversight since the very beginning. So it should be as simple as MS build this project file, I think. I always forget the exact name for that thing. It's something like that. I'll go look. I need a semicolon. I'll have to go look that up to make sure that's the correct one. But or we could just bring up. We'll bring up the here. Let's see. Did I guess this right? If I got it right, it should be shown in our last build things. MS build this project file. That's not the name of it. Is this related to removing from all build projects? It could be. I don't know. It might be. The documentation. The MS Build guys were removing that, and they said that it was no longer needed to have MS Build included in the MS Build all projects, or rather, if you're using the latest MS Build, they didn't want you doing that anymore because the property that was MS Build all project files was getting ginormous, and they were trying to not have that be a common thing. So I thought they were building it in by default. I'll have to go back and see what that was on. MS build this project file. Now I want to go look up. Oh, is it? No. It's not this. That's the problem. This is all the special ones. I think it's just MS build project file. I should just go look. Let the internet. Oh, I closed the vid lock. All right, let's go finish our search. MS build project file. Reserved to well-known properties, yes. MS build project file. For example, the property MS build project file. There we go. All right, so we can add. All right, before we do this, let's go see if. Whoops, that's not what I wanted. Let's go see if adding the adding this back to the MS build all project files will make things work again. MS build project file. And I don't remember how early it had to be. I think it was after all of that. That's common props. Let's just try sliding it in here real quick. MS build all projects. All right, so I've added it here. Oh, this requires rebuilding, and I just removed all my special handling for referencing my local project, which means I'm gonna have to go rebuild the Wix project. All right, so over to, let's go ahead and give ourselves another window. Wix 4 source Wix. All right, now, because I made this change over in the Wix layer, I need to rebuild this. Okay, so is this it? I guess that's it. So what I want to test is to see if, oh, whoa. Do this correctly here. Don't want to replace it. I want to add my project to the end without the angle bracket. All right, there. So now I'm saying to the MS build all projects, add the MS build project file. And we're going to see if this is enough to cause it to trigger the compile. And it might. To test it though, we're gonna have to go over here and kick this thing. We're gonna go make that run a little, oops. New window, need to import the appropriate Visual Studio develop environment so it will run. Okay. Now, that's gonna go run for a little bit. take, I don't know, a few minutes. And yes, so Bob, you're right. One MS build, all projects thing discouraged. Yes, so what I'm doing now is Sean has raised that. Yes, see, I'm reading that it's supposed to automatically append it for you, but I might just have to add the all projects inputs. And honestly, Sean, you're probably right. That's the most logical thing, is that I need to add the MS build all projects. Although, do I want all projects to cook my core? I guess. I see. So as it builds along, it adds all the project files, and you have to add the project files to yours. Okay, that almost makes sense. And I have overridden CoreCompile. All right, so let's see if this alone is enough. I do not expect this to work. I expect this to have the exact same problem that we just saw, which is that it's going to build all this stuff. Then I'm going to go back over to the other command prompt that we had open here, and we're going to run it again, and it's going to show that, or it's going to not work. It's going to be the it's going to basically have the same behavior that we saw before, because I don't think this alone is going to do the magic. Because if my reading is correct and Sean's backing up a little bit, MS Build should be applying our project file to the end of this internal property. Then what they do is they dedupe it. So what happens is this property, the way it was getting built up, was just causing lots and lots of memory, because they'd add append and append and append and append. And they could get duplicates into it sometimes. Given the way things ran, it was just a tremendous waste of memory while MS Build was running. Or rather, it showed up on the profiles, which is never a good thing when you think of something that big. If one variable sticks out, it's probably something you should look at. All right, so if they did that, so the likelihood that this alone fixes it is low. It could be that we need to add MS Build all projects, like Sean says here, to append it to our inputs outputs, and that may work. And if that then does it, then I want to go poke a little bit and see if we can quickly jump back into the common targets and see if they do that. See if anybody else does it, because I kind of want to see how everybody else gets all this done, how this all, to see if it all works correctly. Chris says, you're kind to get this work. Person have to use it with real bill services. How many people do it? Yeah, I don't know. It's a tidiness, a cleanliness, and it's a, what do they say? Tidiness, cleanliness is closely to godliness or something. I don't know. It feels like the right thing to do, and I feel like we're going to ferret out a lot of things. For example, we found a lot of things, Christopher, in the last few episodes. I'm not sure if you've been watching, but welcome, Chris. That's great to have you here. But we found a number of things while doing all this that were not being tracked, and I'm potentially now over-tracking the files that are coming input, which then also has affects clean build, which maybe falls into the same bucket as incremental build, who expects clean build to work. But it just seems like things that we should do the right thing on. All right, so that finished, so we should be able to now do that. I've cleaned my NuGet cache elsewhere. You know, we're gonna do it here too. Get clean. Yeah, we're gonna clean out all these projects. There we go. Wix proj to the package, to not the web app. We're gonna do this one. All right, MS build. And let's just do the restore separate first. Okay, here we go. Do the restore. Man, it's nice that this doesn't take too long. I could see that it did restore my Wix toolset SDK. I deleted it from my NuGet cache on my other monitor, so it did restore it over there. So now that we've done that, we're going to do this build. We're going to see hopefully a nice clean build happen. MS build binlog. Let's go take a look at this. This should be a full build, so it's not like we're going to expect to see any clean builds. CoreCompile. Whoa. No, wait. Did the restore do a build? I think the restore did a build. Oh, of course. All right. The restore, because I did the dash restore instead of dash T restore, it did a build at the same time, of course. Anyway, so I guess what that says instead is that, yay, we did an incremental build and it was really fast. I was actually really worried because it was so fast after that restore. Okay. Fine. So what do we do now? We, oh, I was going to look here. Okay, so two things. One, we've shown that incremental build was not broken by adding this property. And if it had, that would have been extremely mysterious. So, all right, so there's the property. Yep. And it's everybody adding themselves to it. Let's make this thing longer and longer and longer. Yeah, look at this. Our props. Huh. I would have thought that somewhere that I would have seen this being appended. Did I get the wrong property? Oh, don't tell me I did. Don't tell me I did. MS build project file. I didn't get that wrong. Spell project. No, there it is. Project file. There. That's great. So, when we look at MS build all projects. Oh, is it not adding anymore? Is MS build protecting itself? Oh, this is so not at all expected. I would expect it to build up. All right, well. All right, so let's see. Let's edit our Wix proj. And what do we expect? We expect this. I don't expect this to do anything. MS CLS MS build. This should, ideally it would, but it's not going to rebuild probably. Probably not rebuild it. And if it did, I guess we'll see. Yeah, skipping CoreCompile. All right, so that's expected. So I said I wanted to then, given that that wasn't what it was doing, I want to go look and see, does anybody use it? Are they adding MS Build all projects to anything inside MS Build for us? So MS Build all projects. All right. So one of the things I've done, this is if you get into dealing with lots of MS Build targets and trying to figure out what's going on and want to go dig in depth, one of the things I've learned from this tool is which I knew before, you could double click on a target and it will take you to where that actual target that was used to compile your code, which is or to build your code, which is extremely useful. It's a fantastic way to jump straight to it. And so then I can run around in here, and the important thing is it gives me the path to the file, so then I can open this file, start jumping around to all the other files. So hey, I said we were going to get to some MS Build stuff, and here we are. And that right there, I think, tells me almost everything that I needed to know. It is showing up as the inputs to things, and it's showing up early in the inputs. So who are we here? It's actually showing up last in the inputs in that one, but that's fine. Doesn't matter where it shows up, it's in there. That's fine. All right, keep looking at targets. Yep. So here's another target. Yeah, this suggests that we do want to add this to our targets, because pretty much every target that's creating something is using it, which is not that surprising. All right, so let's see. I think, what do we say? I want to look for compile, CoreCompile. Can I get to CoreCompile? Yeah. So then I can go in here and jump in and see. No, I don't want the properties. I want the targets. I want this to show me all the targets for all the different projects. So that's my Wix project. Because I built, oh no, I didn't. Did I build everything? Yes. It should show me here. Yes, see, they're showing me. There's their CoreCompile being skipped because everything was up to date, which is fine. Now, can you please, I was hoping you would jump to the code. What am I missing? Huh. Okay, that worked. All right, now where did compile go? So why are you not jumping to it? It's expanding it, skipping, inputs, yes. Oh, this one, there it is. Oh, look right there. Yep, that's it. That's the answer, because right there, so this is the Microsoft C Sharp core targets, override of CoreCompile. So this is the command that in the end calls CSC, somewhere down here. Oh, yeah, see, there's the CSC call. And right there at the top of their imports, MS build. And if we go look at the top of the Wix targets for CoreCompile, inputs, the compile statements, not the MS build things. So I'm going to put this here. And if we go look at theirs, yeah, they put theirs first. I'll put it first. I have no problem with that. That's great. So now I'm going to go add a thing to go dig into the all build targets to my notes, because I saw some other projects doing a check, and I forgot what the check was, but they were still adding themselves to MS Build core, or to MS Build all projects if the project had some, if it was an old enough version, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And so I want to go and double check that. I saw that somewhere. I want to go double check, see if we need that. If it's before Visual Studio 2019, I'm not going to worry about it, because that's my primary target is 2019, 2020 for Wix 4, because as we come out in the later this year, N-1 seems pretty good, Visual Studio 2022, and support for Visual Studio 2019. So that's kind of the target range. So my memory says that this has been true since 2019, although Sean might be staring at the issue that I was reading at the same time to know for sure if it's 2019 or off the top of his head. And if not, then I'll go get the syntax that I saw floating around to make sure that the correct thing is happening. All right, so I should have kicked off my build. That's not the right build location. This is the right build location. All right, so before we do that, let's take a quick look at the diff to here. There's that change. I should take that back out. And then the change here is those two things. All right, let's go clean up Wix targets a little bit. Actually, I can edit here, right? Are you gonna let me edit this? You do, right? Yes, although a little bit jumpy. Whatever. That's amazing. I love editing in the diff. It's so cool. Okay, I'm gonna pull this out. I'm gonna drop this in my to-do text here. This is my to-do text where I keep open issues. For example, I opened 6701 to see if there's a way to detect the restore and all that. And there is. If you remember the dash restore switch failing, which actually is the way I kicked off this show, I'm pretty confident there's a way of solving that. All right, so this will be enough to remind me that I need to go dig into that a little bit more and make a trip for that. Okay, so that is not an error. I have added MS Build all projects to the front of that to make us look more like the rest of the world. And now we will rebuild the Wix layer to get our SDK back. And I will delete the SDK to make sure it's gone from my machine, just in case. And then we will run this again. And actually, while that's happening, while we're doing that, we will clean here. I need to do a push D. All right, Wix proj package, not that one, this one. All right. And this time when I run restore, I'll get a build log to make sure that we have the original. Okay, cool. So right about now is the .NET Foundation's core maintainer meeting. I wish they hadn't scheduled them on top. Up and running now. Yeah. .NET Foundation's been pretty quiet since all of the craziness that went on and on and on and on around. I think the fundamental thing that came out is that because .NET Foundation is so volunteer powered, they have a real hard time just doing big things. They have great aspirations, dreams of being able to do a whole lot more, and support projects more. I don't know. They have a whole bunch of different things, but I've been following the maintainer meetings, and then they moved them, or they put them on top of this meeting, on top of the show. So I haven't been going in there much since then. Let's see, is this done? Nope. But they're happening. They have one the first Wednesday, second Wednesday, second Wednesday of the month. Yeah. So I'll have to go dig in the meeting notes and see what went down. Generally, the answer is not much. The unfortunate part is they created this process so people could join the committee, and then a whole bunch of people went in and started spamming all the PRs and the way that you'd add yourself to the list. It was a true mess. It's like, yeah, take volunteer time and waste it some more, making their lives difficult. Some people just want to see the world burn. All right, so what we're waiting for here is the Wix layer to finish compiling. Now, one of the big things going to need to do is enter some, to try to create some tests. And I've been thinking about how to create tests for this. And I think the answer is going to be, I want to, because I've been thinking timestamps. The problem that I have with timestamps in unit tests is that if the tests execute too fast, the timestamps don't show them. All right, we'll come back to that thought. Push that, and we'll come back to it. All right, time. I have deleted the SDK from my cache, so time to do a build, a restore, and a build. So let's go anyway, restore, build, go. This should just work normally, hopefully. I mean, the only thing we did was we added MS build all projects to the world, so it's just one more thing to make that say, hey, you need to build this. Actually, I'm curious now. Now that we've done that, let's go ahead and open the bin log viewer. Look at our CoreCompile for just us. So there's the restore command. Now we come down here, come down and look at CoreCompile. Yes, we're building this completely. Why? Because the tracking file doesn't exist. Okay, fine. I was just curious what the message was going to be. It's like, which of all the things that you could complain about is the thing that's going to cause you to think that this needs to rebuild? And the answer is the output's missing. And I'm okay with that. It's a little weird. I know that the output is the tracking file, but that is the file that gets the best timestamp in the whole space. So it works out well. So anyway, so that's that. All right, great. Now, moment of truth. We're going to, no, we're not going to restore. We're just going to build again. Sorry, not moment of truth. Simple verification of looking at this. CoreCompile. This should say no changes. Yes. Skipping. Good. All right. Now we're going to edit our project file like we have a couple times now. Unfortunately, we're back to a good state. So we'll add some white space and then we'll build again. Hopefully this is really fast. Oh, that's too long. I think that built. Oh, no, wait. No. I want it to build. Oh, all right. Come on, Rob. Keep your thing straight. Yes, I want it to build because I edited the project file. So that means instead that was a good sign. That's a very good sign. Yeah, 93 seconds. It did, sir. Almost a second. Boom. Why? Because the project file is newer than that file. That's awesome. That's so awesome. All right, so what are we going to do now? We're going to do another build. And we're going to verify that it didn't do anything. And that was fast enough that I think it didn't. And this is where we're going to rapidly hit the point where running this manually has less value than spending time and getting the test looping, because we've kind of backed through and verified everything looks correct. Now we need to get a test to make sure it stays that way. All right, cool. So that's good. Now the last test, maybe not last test, is to edit the module, the one that kicked this whole thing off. Edit this, drop that line, I guess. No, not that line. There should be a line there. I like that. There we go. Now maybe we'll keep that white space. All right, so we edited, that was the merge module, right? Yeah, output type module. So that's the merge module. A little small maybe, but hopefully you guys can see it. All right, now we're gonna build this again, and this we expect it to say, with no other changes, that the merge module's Wix project was newer, so that it should trigger it. It or something else related to the merge module is the reason that we're building this. So let's go see. I wasn't even looking. I was thinking too much. Oh yes, it did. Woohoo! And the newer. Yes, and actually, yeah, that's right. The MSM is newer. So, and that's fine. I'm happy for it to be the thing that triggers it instead of saying the Wix project is newer. Not that anybody looks at these things. I don't know if people dig into other people's targets and go see exactly which file triggered which file. And then thinks, is that a logical file to have triggered? It doesn't matter. It was one of them. Right? That's what you think. Doesn't matter. Just, it was one of them. All right. A little water. Take a breath. Wow. This feels pretty good. Yeah, only when it doesn't work as expected. But now, maybe, we're getting close to working as expected. Okay. So, that's pretty awesome. All right, let's go ahead and... I need to get rid of some of these files anyway. Yeah, look at that. That's a good add. Deleting all that noise. Anyway, we're not going to commit all this. We're not. Does this revert it? No, it opens the file. That discards the changes. Yeah, actually cancel. Can I just delete this line? Oh, that's a very nice experience. That's a very nice experience. All right, we're not keeping that change. Here's our librarian where we added the layout services to the world. Yep. All that is good. Wix toolset service provider where we added the library result, which allowed us to send our tracking files back. All this from the last few meetings. All right, here we go. Track file. Okay. Now we need to go decide. I need to decide if I like all those things in the tracking file. All right, I'm not going to commit these changes. I'm going to queue these changes. Sorry, was it cache? Stage, cache, queue, stage, whatever, all the different things. Yeah, here's our actually return the layout files. Yep, calling layout files from the build command, bind database command. All right, this tracks the track files from the merge module, right? So these are the actual files that were being merged, whatever files were being done inside that process. Yes, that's correct. Extract merge module files, and then we will list the files that were extracted right here as tracked. I hope it says intermediate. Yes, they're intermediate. Right. So this is where we track all those files for the merge modules as intermediates. The merge modules command. So this is where we include the merge module as an input, the merge module itself as an input. So that's good. And then the Wix targets command to add msbuild all projects. And now I have to think about, do we need to add that other places? Anywhere that we have output, we probably need to add that. Okay, so I'm going to add a little bit more context to this. All right, so my new work item here, check to see if we still need to do the following for Visual Studio 2019. MS Build 16? Yeah, MS Build 16. MS Build 16. They should always be kept. Sorry, Sean, I missed the context on they should be kept as intermediates unless they're always overwritten on every build. So the question isn't, sorry, I probably was mumbling and didn't finish my thought. The question isn't about the intermediates. I'm pretty confident that we have the intermediates being added correctly. What I don't think is correct is that I don't think that the contents of a merge module or unbound Wixlib or extension, or which it just has a unbound Wixlib, a Wixlib that becomes unbound, the files being extracted, whatever the term there is. Anyway, I don't know that we need to list all of those files that are intermediates as also as inputs. And I think that's the thing that's the mistake that I'm going to go find and undo next, is that I don't think we should list all of those intermediate files as inputs, because the merge module, the Wixlib, or the extension should suffice as inputs, and we don't need to bloat out the inputs everywhere. It's like, yeah, so these are the inputs. They happen to generate these intermediates. These do end up flowing into the cab. I don't know that we need to also list them as both as intermediates and as inputs. Does that make sense? That's where my thinking was going. All right, what was I thinking here? So one, I check if we still need to do this, and if so, what the condition is to only do it when only add to MS build all projects when necessary. And what was the other thing I need to do with, oh, and then yes, check to see if there are additional targets in Wix.targets that should be referencing MS the way CoreCompile does now. Yes, so those are the two things that we've added in episode. You know what? Now that we're getting somewhere, episode 6. Those are the work items there. I think all of these came from episode 4, right? Yeah, all these came from episode 5. I like that. There we go. That's kind of cool. Cool. Episode 5, episode 6. What did we do? We created more work for me. Whatever. But this is smaller work than all the incremental build started off being. So that's good. That's good. That's fine. We're done with that file? Okay. All right. Nope, not that window. I want to go back to this window. And I want to look at the tracking file real quick. Do I still have a window open here? So many windows. Okay. I don't know if it's the right one. Let's open our files again. Probably was the right file because I think we just keep building in the same place. All right, JAJP, the only thing that changes is, if we look, is the folder, which is good because these are the same thing built with a fake language. It's not even real Japanese. I know what it says. I think it says this is Japanese, and then the same thing that the English said. Anyway, all right, so we definitely want all these intermediates listed, so that's good. The theory, the hypothesis, the theory I have is that these should not be listed as inputs. Either these should not be listed as inputs, or the extension should be listed, all of them, as inputs. That's what I was trying to say. If the build is not re-executing every time, then the extracted files are an input because they potentially could have changed. So these extracted files can only change if one of their inputs changed, right? So let's create a new file here real quick, and we'll grab our inputs and outputs, right? And let's organize this a little bit, right? So we have an input that is the Wix UI, and that Wix UI generated all of these intermediates. The Wix UI contained all these files. They are extracted and then brought back into the system. And notice that they are not listed as also as inputs, even though these were the files that were being executed or were extracted. So here, this is just a file all by itself, not terribly interesting. Here's the Wix lib. And this is the file that came from the Wix lib. Yes, there we go. There. So here, it's marked both as an intermediate and as an input. And it doesn't need to be an input, because the only way it could change as an intermediate is if this changed, is if the Wix lib that brought it changed it. Input, merge module, input. Yeah, so then we have our cab at the end. Hey, look, we built a cab. So again, this doesn't have to be an input, because if the merge module changed, then these two files, this file would change. Well, it doesn't matter. The merge module has to change for this file to change. That's the thinking. I can't tell, Sean, if you agree with that or disagree with that. So there are two fixes. Someone can modify the extracted file. I guess you could modify it. Nothing modifies the extracted files. And if they did, I don't know how that would. I mean, it's possible. I guess you could have a process. No, can you? No, you can't. How would you do that? You would have to do so in between the time that the files are extracted and before they get put in the cab. So you could have an extension that does that, but then the extension still would have. So how would you? The only time you can modify them would be. So how would it happen? You'd have to modify them at a time after they got in the cab, but then you'd be in a perpetual rebuild situation. So that would be bad. I guess you would know then if you were editing these things in perpetual rebuild. That's just weird. It's not. That's not a scenario. That's not quite a scenario there, right? Otherwise, these up here, all these guys need to be added. Because here's the bug. There's a bug in here one way or the other, right? And it has to be either, because these are missing. Can I do this? Oh, that actually worked. I think it's the batch file. I'll take it. That's fine. So either these green lines need to be added, or these dashed lines down here need to be removed. And I'm hesitant to add all these things as inputs because it's going to grow our input list. So it's going to grow the list of files that then MS Build tracks. Yeah, I think the cost is doing that. Someone could get in between builds. It's a weird scenario, but technically possible. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So if we don't list them as inputs, then you technically speaking could modify one of these intermediate files that are extracted. So if you were today modify, for example, this license RTF after the build was completed, but before the next build, if you were to modify it, because it's not listed as an input at this point in time, the build would say, hey, everything's good to go and not do anything. That's possible. But if you have a process where you edit this file after the build, then one, that file's not included in the builds, or it's not included in your cab or wherever it went, wherever Wix said that file needed to go. We extracted it because we needed it, so it went somewhere else. If you edit it after that point, then it's not in the build, and you've perpetually set yourself up for a constant rebuild situation because you edit this file, and now next time and we list as an input, assuming we list as an input, then you edit this file, it's not in your build, you've modified an intermediate file, and the next time you build, it's going to say, hey, that file is different, assuming this line was in. Yeah, I don't think it's worth it because what's the problem is going to be if we do list all these, and these are small, these are test projects, but you could get larger Wix libs or larger merge modules that then have lots of files. All those files would be picked up and added to MS Build for timestamp checks. So I think the answer is these things, these Wix libs, the Wix lib, the merge module, and the extension are essentially proxies that are essentially proxies for these intermediate files. And if you modify the intermediate files, but you don't modify the proxy, then it won't work. Or if you extend the Wix toolset pipeline, which you can do through extensions in various places, then you could modify this file, but you'd want to do so before it ended up being cabbed and things like that. And then everything still would work because that file would be modified, but it would be in the build process before the cab or wherever it went. In this case, these are being cabbed, so the cab would then be built and carried out. So I think the answer is it was a mistake for me. I assume I did this in these set of changes to add these files as inputs. I think the answer is that the Wix lib is enough, or the Wix lib, I'm looking at this one, or the merge module, or the extension is enough of a proxy to handle that. So let's go try that. And Chris, it's a little more complicated than just project references, because you're right, project references are one thing, and in this case, this example, it's all built on project references where the Wix-proj package depends on a Wix-proj module and the Wix-proj for the package Wix-proj, say that in the correct order, the package Wix-proj also depends on a library Wix-proj. So in those cases, the modifying of those projects does end up causing the main to be, but in the end, it's the main thing is to input. Yeah. So I was just thinking about Shalom just said about the safer thing. Yeah. Anyway, so, but even then, it's not the project references, because the project references say, hey, project, are you up to date? It does its check, and then it goes forward. So in the end, it's always the up-to-date check that's checking these inputs and outputs that control whether the project reference says, yes, I'm good or not, or whether I have to be built again. So getting your up-to-date check is really important, especially the farther down you get referenced in a tree. So there's that. And it all comes down to file timestamps in the end. No, we don't short circuit the extraction today, but I think we end up overwriting the files again. So we could delete them. That's another option. Unless we want to short circuit writing them. Yeah, but that would be interesting. We're not doing that right now. Right now they're left. So if they were removed as inputs, then they should be able to go with temporary, and Wix could remove them every time. Yeah, Bob, you're right. Like, we could add so yes, you're correct, Bob. We would have to do the MS build up to date checks, which would be basically saying, are any of these files older than this DLL, essentially? And if we did based on timestamp, which we probably would, because that's what MS Build does, and it's good enough. That's air quotes. That's where we're at, state of art today. So if the input is the container, and then if any of these are updated, the reason it might make sense for us to do that, Bob, is that we could potentially save a lot of time if, let's say, the UI extension and this merge module don't change, but the Wixlib does, which actually in this case, well, this case isn't it. But if you have a merge module that doesn't change very often, and you have your UI and you have your extensions, which presumably don't change hardly ever, then you would be able to do lots of incremental builds around, where you're only extracting this one file. Can we rely on the timestamps? So so to your point, can we rely on the timestamps from the MSMs? No, we would have to set the timestamps on disk explicitly to be the exact same timestamp as the merge module. So we'd read the merge module, get its timestamp, and then for every file we extract, we'd essentially set them to the same timestamp as the merge module to ensure that we don't, that the times are always in sync. Although, that's right. Another option would, that's what it would have to. We would have to set the timestamps on the files. I was thinking, well, we wouldn't have to, because we basically just be able to say, if this file was newer than this, then we know that, hey, this file has if the extracted file is newer than the container, then the container hasn't changed. If the container's newer and the extract file is older, well, then obviously the container changed, we have to extract it again. Except that does not work, because you could move from one version of the Wix Toolset UI Wix extension, for example, version 1 to version 2, or 4.0 to 4.1, or whatever, 4.0 to 4.1, let's say, and that 4.1 build could have come out long before your current build, and you would miss the timestamp update. So we would need to set the timestamps to the same as the extracted files. Are you saying that's an important enough feature to ship it, Sean or Bob, or should we just stick with what we have now? I'm not quite sure. I'm not sure how hard that would be to implement. This is one of those things where Bob says, yeah, you should just, maybe you should just do that. And I'm like, I don't know, how hard is it? And then I start writing it code with him staring at my screen from, 2,000 miles away. In the end, it ends up being not that hard. I'm a little afraid. I haven't finished. No, okay. I'm finishing this first. All right. One thing at a time. Number one, I think I've decided that these intermediate files do not need to be listed as inputs as well. Sean raises a point that you could modify them in the build process and not get the timestamping right, but I'm not going to worry about that. Like, I'm not, like, I don't think that's intermediate temporary first. Well, so Sean, then the thing is that if we could move them temporary, then they'd always be deleted, but that would then prevent the optimization that Bob was just bringing up, where we could reuse files that already exist. So if we leave them as intermediate, then that leaves open the optimization to not have to re-extract files that were already extracted on an incremental build, where you do have to rebuild, but you don't have to necessarily re-extract everything that was input into your project. So I think that's an interesting way to go around. Yes. And the input has to come out, because if we do remove these, if these do just go to temporary, then this being listed as an input will prevent the build from working correctly, because these things will be listed as an input. They'll point to a file that doesn't exist if we mark this temporary, because it would be deleted. And then we're in a perpetual rebuild case on that too. I could, or I can leave them as intermediate now. I don't think it changes things either way. All right, so I'm going to do the input change here first, and then the test. I think that's the thing to do, because then anything after that, I don't want to keep redoing all these builds and over and looking at things. I want to then get the test in place. So the question is, where are those files added as inputs? And the easiest way, if they go to temporary, it will cause a perpetual incremental loop if the files are listed as inputs still. Like, they have to be removed as inputs before they get moved to temporary. Otherwise, that would cause the perpetual incremental loop. That I've seen, because I had a case where I think one of these got added as a input file and not as an incremental file, and it's and that's one of the things I said, like, oh, why is this rebuilding? Oh yeah, of course, I listed an input file that got deleted and it was not working. So let's go look for tracked file dot input, right? That's not it. I haven't messed with this. What happens if I say, let's see, extract merge modules files? If I open this, as give me a diff. It did give me the diff. Can I just say open the file? Nope, that's fine. Extract merge module files input. Yeah, where are those getting listed as inputs then? This could be tricky. They may be getting listed as inputs by the cab process. But if that was true, why isn't the UI bringing them in? Yes, tracked file, tracked file, tracked file, tracked file. We track this file. There it is as an intermediate. Where are all the places we listing as input? Extract embedded files. So this says for the container, track it as an input. For all of its children, track them as temporary. Here, the librarian is saying, take everything that ends up being bound as an input. This is bundles, which we've not got to yet. Need to test that too. This is a content file. Yeah, it's an input. And yeah, content files, inputs. That makes sense. Yeah, this is... Oh, that's interesting. Is that true? Okay. So here, this says all the files that get put into the Windows installer get tracked as inputs. Yeah. And here we're tracking the merge module as an input. Yeah, so they're probably getting added here. Yeah, that's interesting. So the problem is that these files are being listed as, all the files that end up inside the MSI are being listed as inputs, which is true for some files that are just content files or things like that. But these files that come from the extraction process cannot be included in this. That's trickier. It makes this a little bit trickier. Let's see. I don't. The question is how best to solve this problem. The option that comes first to mind is to add something to the file facade that says, hey, this is an intermediate file, so you don't have to track it as an input. That's one way. Another way is to say, if this file facade is being tracked as an intermediate or a temporary, don't list it as an input. The latter is a bit more sweeping, but could catch things we don't want it to catch. Are there any intermediate files that are inputs? Let's see here. Nope, not that window. Gotta go back to my tracking file. Let's see. So the cab is not listed as an input to the MSI. Yeah, tricky. So these two guys are listed. Okay. All right. So yeah, this is interesting. So we got caught by the to-do, I think. Or we got saved by the to-do. Or the to-do is... Anyway. Here's the issue. So these two files just listed as inputs because, as this code says, every file facade that every file facade in the Windows installer, every file that's listed in the file table is marked as an input, which, simply speaking, makes sense. If you're listed in the file table, you're an input into the MSI. It ended up somewhere inside the MSI. Unless you take into account the fact that somebody's extracted, things like that. And also then, these guys are missing, and these guys are missing because files that are listed in the binary table and the, was it icon table, I think it said? Yeah, the binary table and the icon table are not included as inputs, even though they should be if they're not coming from an intermediate. So that's the challenge. Okay. So any file so that's why I'm trying to decide, would it be better to then go through Yeah, this is interesting. I haven't thought. I have to think through the repercussions here, because if you have, so we can get all the file facades. We can get all the files. So the file facades represent all the files in the file table. And the icon in the binary table are not included in that. But we are at the point, yeah, we're tracked files. We are at the intermediate, the point where this is the end of this, by the way, this code here is the end of the creating of an MSI, or almost the end of the creating of an MSI. It's very, very late. You can see here, this is where it's actually creating the PDB, and it's creating the MSI. Or it's creating all the MSI data that then later on, one step later, I think gets turned to an MSI. All right, so this is very late in the process. So everything's done at this point. We're not modifying anything anymore here. So one option is to, instead of basing this off of file facades, to base this off of the rows in the MSI, because we're essentially at that point, the intermediate at that point. Right? Is that right? Does this have all of our rows? No, the data. The data has all our rows. That's what I was looking at. This is the data. It's a simple name, but it's the most important part. Yeah, there it is. The data has all the Windows installer data. So the intermediate has all the information the way the compiler sees it. The data then has the Windows installer data, which is, it seems. Right, plus any custom table that can have a binary column. Yeah, Bob, you're absolutely right. So let's go back and look. Let's see. So we're dealing with Windows installer data here. Thank you. And we're going to go down to files and rows. So this is made up of tables. Table. We're walking our way down the world. And then that has rows in it. Rows have fields in them. And fields have data, just object. Create base. All right. I'm trying to remember. I'm looking at decompiled input output instead of the real output, but this is pretty good. So if it's an object, it's a string. So let's go look at the save. Back one more. All right, all the way back. Now we're back at where we create, and I want to look at the save code. So when we say create wix out, I want to look at the create, and then we save the data to the wix out, which I assume is, oh yeah, that's just adding that stream. Okay, great. So that's all the files. Who calls this? Please, yes. The MSI backend calls this. Okay, so that means all of our cabs are in place and the rows don't have the file information in them anymore. All right. Which explains why I was using the file facades. The file facades have the source path to them and the rows will not. No, because when we bind, where? All right. Wait a minute now. Okay, this is the top. Post backend bind. Yeah, that's the extensions. All right, so bind database, execute. All right, where's the part? I'm now getting lost here. Where is the part that, okay, no, they're creating MSIs. Oh, that's just the PDB and the Wix out. Oh, that's just the Wix out. Okay. We've already created the MSI and it's in the file transfers, isn't it? Yes. Yes. That's the instance transforms. All right, we've already created the caps. Okay. All right. I was trying to make this part here the part where we save the MSI database, and I'm like, but that's not what it's doing, and it's not. This is just the Wixout data, which is the wrapper container that's used essentially for the pipeline. The pipeline pieces later in the pipeline can use the intermediate or the Windows installer data without having to open the MSI database itself and take it apart and stuff like that. There's helpers for if you want to do more evaluation of what the binder did at the very end for a MSI. Rather than have to open the MSI, you can just read the data, which will have pointers to everything. So the data should, let's see, where are we at? I have a test that can run here, right? All right, ncrunch. Just give me a test, please. Any test. Pin the test covering. Oh, there are a lot of tests that will run this. Okay. Cabinet files. Let's run one that's related to cabinet files. Oops, I went debug. Sorry. Let's debug. I have my ncrunch window on another separate monitor so I can see it. Okay, yes. Yes. I have to get past all these breakpoints there. All right, so let's look at our data object now, please. Thank you. Oh, this is gonna get crazy. Data tables. Can I do select many? Yes, I can. No, not enter, Rob. Select many. T dot rows. Still not enter. Okay, there. All right, there's all our rows. Yay. Okay, so I want to look at a file table. Like this will work. And I have all of its fields. Oh, look at that. This test refers to Notepad. So field 9 does have the source path, which is good. Okay. So that's nice. That's not actually in the Windows installer database, by the way. We have extended beyond the file table. This is probably, yeah. This is 1.1. So yeah, this is the sequence of the column. Let's see. Column definition. What's the name of this column? Disk identifier, right? So that's not in there either, but it tells you what disk it went to. All right, cool. So 8 and 9 are extra fields that aren't normally in the file table, but that does mean we have for the file table, we have the source. So that's good. And then presumably we could go through any other fields that have an object. What is the type of that? Tell me it's an object. Column type definition is object. Sweet. All right, so that's good. That means that we probably could just do a sweep through the entire Windows installer data object here. And instead of doing this input, we'll sweep every object field and add it as an input. All right, so that first. Now that's going to get us too much. That's essentially going to get us what we have now, but it's going to fix this binary and icon problem as well. So that's a good thing. Then what we need to do is filter out anything that we don't want included in that, which would be definitely temporary files. So if a tracked file, if that path is listed as a tracked file, then that, ooh, yeah, there it is. All right, we have 2 minutes left. I'm gonna leave it with a cliffhanger. That's gonna be the end of this week. That's the thing that I think either, I don't know, I probably won't do it this next week. I think I have enough other things going on. I'm gonna leave this one for next week. Next week, we're gonna pick up right here. I'll write myself a note before we finish the stream, but we're gonna pick up right here where we're gonna do essentially what I just said. We're gonna go through all the Windows installer data. For every object field, we're going to say that string gets put as that source, because it's an object field is a stream that ends up being imported into the MSI, except for files. Files are special, but because we're doing a special thing to make life easier for ourselves by adding special columns to the end of the file table here that say, hey, by the way, this file came from this location. The Windows installer, by the way, does not store the path to the file where it came from, as you'd expect. So this is That'll be good. So we'll go through, we'll list all those things as inputs, and then the trick will be to filter out everything that should not be listed in that, because we will end up with some temporary files, I'm sure, in that list, which is what got us in this problem, for example, with issue number right here, 4049. That's an example of a temporary file was created. It was included in this, it was caught in this sort of thing, and then that temporary file would be deleted, and that then breaks everything. So what we're going to do is figure out how to list all inputs to the MSI, get them all inputs listed inside the Windows Installer data, listed as inputs, filtering out the ones we don't want, which I think is temporary and probably intermediate. That's pretty good. On the upside, earlier today, we saw lots of success. So this is very good. This is very good. I'm very excited. We're getting close. We didn't get there this week. I thought it was a maybe, but we got very close. I have hopes that it's next week. All right, so next week, we're doing this. Until then, guys, you keep coding. You know I am. Bye.